Good morning,
All right, you can
everyone.
begin.
We are group. Sorry. Good morning, everyone. We are group 7, and we will be discussing complex organizations or understanding complex organizations. Next slide. So before we begin, I'd like to have a chapter overview. So in this presentation, we will be discussing the or exploring the intricacy of complex organizations, including their structure, system, and challenges. We are going to delve into the dynamic of organizational behaviors, the impact of external factors, as well as strategies for effective leadership within an environment. Next slide. So, firstly, we would like to decipher between a group and an organization. From previous presentations, we have understood the dynamic of a group, working in teams, how to deal with problems within groups, and all these other necessary stuff to work in those environments. But I would like to know from the class, does anybody know the difference between an organization and a group? Well, I take that as a no. Well, that's okay. Next slide. Hello, Celine, next slide. Okay, great. So exploring leadership created a helpful chart to identify the differences and similarities of groups and organizations by asking the who, what, when, where, and how, also why questions, right? So as you can see from the table breaks down these factors and clearly flushes out the and displays the identity of these themes. So as you can see from the table, when we ask the problem, who are partner groups, or who are partner groups and organizations, we understand that groups are usually small, consisting of 3+ participants, whereas organizations consist of more than 20 or so individuals, right? When we think about like what a group consists of or what an organization consists of, a group consists of individuals, whereas an organization consists of a collection of groups. Um, this is also one of the similarities between a group and an organization is the form in which they interact with each other. So groups and organizations usually interact with each other on a continuous basis, right? The groups are usually Some groups are usually within proximity to each other, but as time progresses, as we notice, um, society progresses, technology progresses, and we see a lot of online um, conversations or communications being done as of today. So groups don't necessarily have to be in close proximity to each other, um, just like how organizations don't necessarily have to be in close proximity to each other. They can be or they can't. The most important thing is that groups and organizations continuously communicate with each other or interact with each other, right? So groups tend to have a very simple structure, whereas organizations tend to have complex structures, which we will touch upon as we talk further in the presentation. So groups and organizations both are formed with a particular purpose. So that is the driving force as to why the group or the organization is created. Next slide. So as you can see from the table, um, organizations comprise of various groups that interact with each other on a continuously in a complex system with specific goals or purpose to accomplish, right? Each participant may share a different value, idea, or means of operating. Thus, continuous communication is necessary within an organization. The success of said organization is dependent on how these groups connect with each other to ensure that the purpose is achieved easily and efficiently. Next slide. Right. So organizations as a complex system. So inherently, organizations are systems, and these are defined as an environment in which interaction between members produce an outcome that affects each individual's subsequent interactions and outcomes, right? This depicts how important communication is within an organization, especially when it comes to the progression of an organization. For example, right, I assume most of us have experiences within our lives where it is that we communicate something to someone and that person communicates something to the next person, but they say it in their own way. Sometimes things get skewed, sometimes stuff is left out, and that person then communicates with the next person, telling them the exact same thing that the other person says, or probably divulging particular information. And at the end of all of it, the individual who gets the last note of the information is told something completely different from the initial statement that was said. So these are some of the issues that many organizations face when there is communication to between members, especially when the organization is growing and becoming a bigger entity, right? So one of the solutions given in exploring leadership is a list of principles they consider the 9 laws of God, right? These 9 laws of God, next slide. These 9 laws of God were introduced by Kevin Kelly, right? And it's tailored for individual use, but it can aid in resolving some of the issues that can indirectly or directly affect organizational culture, right? So these laws entail distribute being, which is the first law. The second one is control from the bottom up. The third one is cultivate, increase in returns. The fourth one is growth by chunking. Next slide. The fifth one is maximize the fringes. The sixth one, sorry, the seventh one, sorry, is honoring your errors. The seventh one is pursue no optima or have multiple goals. The eighth one is seek persistent de-equilibrium. And the ninth one is changes itself. So in the next slide, we will dive deeper into these different principles. So we'll start off with distribute being. So in essence, distribute being, the organization exists in all its collective members, right? So this states that the organization is its members itself, like the members of the organization gives it its purpose, right? Control from the bottom up states that empowering members from all levels of the organization is important, just like how we stated before in distributing being that members are the essence of the organization. We need to empower these members from all facets of the organization, right? So cultivate, increase return, right? This says that you focus on what the organization does well and then try to do it better. So hone your skills, notice what is your strong points in the organization and try to hone it and do it as best as you can possibly do it. Grow by chunking. This states that the organization does not grow by just one piece alone or by one individual or one group. It grows as a collective, or big pieces of the organization should grow together. So, in that retrospect, it allows the organization to progress further. Next slide. Maximize the fringes. This is honor the creative, like honoring creative members of the group, even if their ideas are out there. Like some people might have outlandish, extreme ideas, but we still should honor them and give it space to grow, even if it fails, which brings us to the next point, which is honoring your errors, right? Because in through trial and tribulation, usually we find solutions or grow as individuals, right? Pursuit no optimal, have multiple goals, right? So there are multiple ways in which an individual could deal with complex situations or problems, and we should be able to identify and be able to look at all possible options. Seek persistent disequilibrium. So when we talk about disequilibrium, we talk about like a state of imbalance or chaos. And I know at some point would think that we would not want chaos or problems within the organization, but um, it is necessary that we have some sort of um, this equilibrium in order to promote growth within the organization. It allows for certain things to be for members of the organization to grow and see and reflect, and that brings change within the organization and probably in a positive light. And the last one is change changes itself. And this is basically self explanatory. Whereas if change leads to more change, which changes the initial thing. So as we progress forward, the issues that probably were issues beforehand would indeed become different things. So not all things stay the same forever. Next slide. So right. So when we speak about organizational leadership, right? Um, we know due to the nature of an organization, right? Um, and its inherent structure, leadership is necessary to ensure that all groups that make up said organization are working together to accomplish the specific goal, right? Although purpose can change within over time within an organization, the leader should uphold the core values of said organization to ensure its longevity. So as we can see here, the relational leadership model is a part of a part of organizational leadership. And we've seen this multiple times in different forms throughout the many of our presentations. So I would like to talk about it in relation to leadership, well, to organizational leadership. Next slide. So, as we acknowledged from previous presentations, relationships are the key to effective leaderships. The relational leadership model sets the foundation to which strong relationships can foster between leaders and participants within a community, ensuring that the leader's approach is purposeful, inclusive, ethical, empowering, and process-driven. In our organization, the same can be said as leaders have to be inclusive of others and their points of views, empower participants, and being process orientated while helping the organization's members purposely and as well as positively work towards a common goal. This can result in leaders and members working together to successfully accomplish a significant change within the organization. And as we know, the definition of leadership, a part of it is accomplishing positive change. Next slide. So we're going to talk about organizational structures, right? So organizations have structures that make achieving the purpose easier, right? One of these structures were created by a gentleman named Max Weber, right? He created an organizational model that was bureaucratic in nature. It had a hierarchical structure that where the roles and responsibilities were clearly defined amongst the members. This model was known as a traditional organizational structure, and the power, authority, and responsibility trickled down from top to bottom. And I literally mean trickle down because the president who sat at the top hold all the power. He There were also the officers and committee chairs who would supervise, and then there were the members who had little to no say. Right. So may I ask, has anybody ever experienced or worked in an environment that had this structure? No. Well, I would like to share my experience. So when I started when I started working, I had my first job and I worked in an environment. I can't say which job it was, but I worked in an environment where I felt like I wasn't being really utilized for my potential. I got instructions from the boss who would then also give instructions to supervisors to do particular things, who would then give me instructions. And it felt like my talents were not being used or utilized. I was just more or less a pawn in a scheme or a pawn in a chessboard. And I felt as if I knew the necessary things that was needed for the to help the organization grow, because I was dealing with customers, I was dealing with complaints, I was there within the store 24 hours, and I knew the ins and outs of the organization, but all of this fell in deaf ears. So a lot of people a lot of people had the same opinion of this structure. The court said that it lacked compassion, um, it lacked empathy, it wasn't a environment that fostered collaboration, right? And felt as if it was like a dictatorship. And most importantly, it was an environment that didn't really foster to connect the members or utilize their talents or meet the needs of the members. So many agreed that the model should be restructured, especially in times like these, and suggested that the organization, the organizational structure be flipped on its head, which brings us to the next organizational structure. Next slide, please. This brings us to the inverted organizational structure, which is completely different to the traditional structure. So in this structure, the members sit on top. So the members have much more say in the structure. They voice their needs, their talents are being utilized, and they basically voice their concerns or needs to the office or committee, right? And then the committee would then relay that information to the president, who would then try to facilitate or meet the needs or meet the resources or get the resources for the participants. This entails fostering an environment where the members have somewhat of a say, somewhat understand their purpose within the organization, and there is a level of feedback between all parties. Next slide. The following structure is called the web structure, and it's somewhat called the web structure based on the nature in which members connect with each other. Um, in exploring leadership, they put purpose in the middle, right? In some literature, they have leadership, but um, exploring leadership they stated rightfully that the purpose of an organization is what brings the members together. So most organizations are driven by their purpose. So purpose should be centered, right? In this organization, it's somewhat completely different to the other organizations, within the fact that there is open communication amongst all members. Just like a spider web, each link is connected to a member or collected to all members. One member is connected to this one, which is connected to the next one, which is connected to the other, right? This allows for open communication amongst all members, as well as allows individuals to act independently on their thoughts. So if an individual or a member of the organization has an idea, they have the ability to freely act on such ideas because they have access to the necessary resources given so that they have the ability to communicate amongst the whole organization. This gives them a sense of responsibility and a sense of authority when it comes to bringing their ideas to the life within the organization, right? Um, one one another fact about web structures is that because of this open communication and lack thereof of positioning, it's easy for them to reorganize each other itself because there isn't really any set rules or set leadership within the web structure. So it's easy for them to shuffle and reshuffle members of the organization themselves, right? It's also easy to add new members because as members are added to it, like a spider web, it will be on the outer layers, but it will be attached to existing layers, which will be attached to other existing members who are closer to the purpose. So communication would always be open, regardless of the nature or the how new the members are, right? they're also always reinventing themselves. They, because of the open communication, lack of fixed positions, and being process driven, they usually are able to cut the, well, for lack of a better word, cut the fats and release or let go of things that are not serving the organization anymore and focus fully on the things that are necessary that will push them towards their desired purpose and desired goal. Next slide. So the last organizational structure is called the non-hierarchical organizational structure. Well, this one is completely different to all the rest of them because there isn't any set hierarchy. There's no leader. Power is distributed equally amongst all members of this organization, which means that decision making is made by vote or consensus amongst members, as well as leadership roles are scattered amongst all existing members. And this is usually done in instances or places that are for like philosophical reasons, because they believe in true equality where there is literally no bounds or bases or restrictions. So next slide. So we spoke about the organizational structures of an organization, but we have to really understand that the organizational structure does not make up the organization. The organization consists of its members who work together to accomplish a particular purpose, right? So the organizational structure may aid in like making this goal or making it easier to reach to the goal, but it does not indeed shape the organization itself, right? Changing the organizational structure might actually help alleviate some problems within the organization. But if the root cause of the problem is within its members, changing the organizational structure will not fix the issue. So I'm going to pass you on to my colleague, Lolita, who will speak about the mission, the organizational mission, values, and goals.
Organizational mission, vision, and core values. An organization works for a specific objective, such as representing the people's opinion, producing a product, and providing activities for its members, or for a variety of other purposes. This is what motivates people to join and engage in organizations. The way an organization's purpose or mission manifests itself in its vision and actions will be important to ensure its success or failure. The mission, vision, and values define the foundation of an organization's identity. Mission. An organization's efficiency will depend on how well it advances its mission, which could be social, service related, programmatic, political, or any combination of these. A mission statement describes why an organization exists and what it seeks to accomplish. It should be clear, concise, and produced with input from all members to accurately reflect the organization's identity. Sorry for the background, my dog going off. Once created, the statement should be widely distributed in as many formats as possible so that it can really drive the organization's behavior. This was stated by Jones and Kahanier in 1995. A solid mission statement also gives a convincing purpose for the organization's existence, demonstrating how it benefits universities, communities, or even worldwide. Whether the objective is social, service oriented, political, or program based, the organization's success is determined by how well it fulfills its goals. Jones and Kahanier collected the mission statements of over 50 corporations. A vision. This is a clear and motivating picture of what an organization aspires to become in the future. This is called a mission. It should be motivating, self-centered in solid principles, and describe the ideal future that members strive towards together. In order to motivate loyalty and direct all efforts towards accomplishing the organization objectives, a good mission must be straightforward, understandable, and shared by all members of the organization. Who's Anna Posner in 1995 called a vision an ideal or unique image of the future. Albrecht terms it as an image of what the people of the enterprise aspires for it to be or become. The vision answers the question, what do we want to be? What is the best we can be? Vision statement. Unless the vision is shared and owned by members, nothing of significance can happen. A vision statement is defined as a clear, compelling image of an organization's desired future, what it aspires to become or accomplish. According to Movies et al., a vision expresses what the organization wants to achieve if its purpose is realized. It depicts the ideal future and inspires and guides members. A strong vision should be clear and concrete, easy to understand by everyone in the organization, challenging but achievable, encouraging people to strive for perfection, motivating and value based, reflecting what is genuinely important to the group, the shared and own, co created to give members a sense of commitment and connection. Differences. A mission statement is present oriented, what we do now. It defines why, the purposes and values. It is action oriented, and it also answers the question, what do we do? Whereas a vision statement is future oriented. It is what we want to be. It describes the desired future state. It is aspirational, and it answers the question, what do we want to become? Examples of a mission and vision statement. The Southwest Airlines mission is the dedication to the highest quality of customer service delivered with a sense of warmth, friendliness, individual pride, and company spirit. Google's mission statement is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Dell Computers described their corporate policy as the soul of Dell to be the most successful computer company in the world at delivering the best customer experience in markets we serve. Nike's vision statement is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world, and Tesla's is to create the most compelling electric car company of the 21st century. Core values. Core values are strongly held beliefs that determine how an organization and its individuals act as they work to achieve their purpose and vision. Without them, any action could be justified since it produces results, giving rise to the notion the ends justify the means. Collins and Porras define core values as the organization's essential and lasting principles, which should never be sacrificed for financial or short term advantage. They usually consist of only a few key values and define how members agree to treat themselves and others. Although sometimes forgotten, focusing on and embracing these values promote organizational integrity, unity, and long-term success. Core values. We have the passion for customers, which builds positive relationship through outstanding service with each interaction. The integrity, uphold the highest ethical standards and promote trust and respect. Excellence, exceed expectation and take intense pride in everything you do every day. Leadership, have the courage to rise above challenges, to work through adversity and inspire others. Innovation, imagine what is possible. It fosters creativity that challenges, constraints, and drive process. Teamwork, consistently demonstrates an unselfish commitment to working with others to create a collaborative culture. Example of a core value in a company. Our values are fundamental to our success. They are the foundation of our company, define who we are, and set us apart from competition. They underline our vision of the future, our business strategies, and our decisions, actions, behaviors. We live by them, they endure. This was stated by Levi Strauss and Hill Corporation. His four core values are empathy, understanding and caring about others' perspective, originality, fostering creativity and innovation, integrity, doing what is right, not what is easy, and courage, standing up for principles and taking responsible risk. Integrating mission, vision, and values. According to Kumavis et al., the mission describes why the organization exists and what it intends to accomplish. Vision depicts the ideal future, reflecting what the organization hopes to become if its objective is accomplished. Core values serve as the ethical foundation defining how members agree to act and treat one another while pursuing the purpose and vision. Together, these three components form an integrated framework that aligns purpose, direction, and conduct. The mission and vision needs to come alive to be kept continuously alive through the actions of the leaders and members of the organization. I will now speak about organizational culture. Culture is the sum total of shared values, beliefs, norms, and behaviors of a group. When we talk about organizational culture, we are characterizing an organization's specific personality, the invisible glue that keeps everything together. Culture teaches members how things are done around them. It has an impact on how people think, feel, and behave within their group. Every organization, whether a small student club or a huge corporation, creates a culture based on common experiences, traditions, and objectives. Organizational culture is learned, shared, communicated, and adaptable. People learn from it. People learn it from the organization's stories, ceremonies, and traditions. The newcomers study how others behave and over time adapt similar tendencies. The organization's heroes, celebration, even its jokes promote what it is to be deemed normal. According to Kumavis, culture evolves. It changes as people adjust to new problems, technology, and settings. This means that the leaders must continuously interpret and cultivate the organization's culture to ensure that it is consistent with its mission and values. Thus, culture is more than just a background element, it is the heart of every company's operations. Edgar shines three levels of organizational culture. According to Edgar, organizational culture exists at three separate levels, each signifying a deeper meaning within the organization. The artifacts. These are visual symbols and behaviors within a company that may be seen, heard, or felt when you walk into a workspace. For example, the workplace layout, the dress code, the logos, the ceremonies, and even how individuals greet one another. Artifacts are simple to observe but difficult to analyze without understanding the deeper meaning that underline them. Expose beliefs and values. These are clearly stated ideas and ideals that the organization claims to uphold, such as integrity, teamwork, or innovation. They are frequently used in mission statements, vision statements, and business handbooks. However, Kumavis noted that some values simply reflect what the company thinks to claim, they may not always reflect how the individual actually believes. Basic underlying assumptions. This is the most fundamental level of culture, the unconscious, those who are taken for granted, and beliefs that control behavior. These assumptions are so deeply ingrained that members rarely challenge them because they influence how people see reality, relationships, and success. For example, a company may unknowingly believe that hard work is the only path to advancement or that conflict should always be avoided. Next slide, please. Deal and Kennedy cultural framework. Deal and Kennedy present another influential theory linking culture to organizational behavior and effectiveness. They talk about four fundamental elements associated with culture. The values are the core ideas that influence conduct. It defines what is right or wrong and what is most important to the organization. Values are the basis of decision making and priority settings. Heroes who are embodied and reinforce these principles via their actions and achievements. They serve as cultural role models with people looking at them as an example. How do I succeed or wrong here? The rites and rituals are traditions that govern how things are done, and they honor organizational principles, which includes the ceremonies, prizes, and activities that promote unity and encourage desired behavior. Communication networks encompass both formal and informal information systems, which promote stories, values, and gossip throughout the company. This network consists of storytellers, mentors, and even spreaders who influence ideas of what is normal or acceptable. The whole process depends on people, not on paper. Deal and Kennedy. Characters in the communication network. Firstly, we have the storytellers who interpret events and create meaning. Priests safeguard essential beliefs and promote unity. Whisperers are close to leadership and wield influence behind the scenes. Gossips spread Gossipers spread current knowledge, whether they are factual or not. Administrative support understands what's really going on. Spies are loyal to leaders and report back on the issues. Finally, cabals are groups of two or more people whose main purpose in joining together is to advance themselves within the organization. The alliance is often kept a secret. Bowman and Deal's four framework of organizations. Lee, Bowman, and Terence Deal present a comprehensive methodology for understanding organizations using four separate frames. Structural rules, the rules, policies, technology, environment, social architects, and acute structure to task. It views the organization as a machine or system where efficiency and other matter that matter the most. Leaders use this framework to emphasize clear goals, rational planning, and formal coordination. Human resource frame. The needs, the skills, relationship, empowerment, align organization, and human needs. This frame views organization as a family. It focuses on people's needs, relationship, and development. The political framing views organization as competing for resources and power. It emphasizes negotiation, influence, and team building, which power, conflict, and develop agendas and power bases. Leaders that use this frame recognize that conflict is natural and must be handled constructively through collaboration and compromise. The symbolic frame highlights the events, tales, heroes that shape the organization and reflect its principles. Also, the culture, the meaning. Next slide, please. Great Hofstede cultural dimensions. He offered 5 effective frameworks for understanding how national and cooperative cultures influence leadership, communication, and teamwork. Power distance is an acknowledgement of uneven power. A high power distance is where people respect authority and anticipate clear hierarchies. Leaders make choices with little resistance. This happened in countries in Malaysia, Mexico, and even the Middle East. Low power distance, equality, and participation are prized. Leaders are approachable and inclusive. Leaders must adjust by becoming more directive in hierarchical societies and more participative in egalitarian ones. Individualism versus collectivism. Individualism cultures promote independence, achievement, for example, in the United States, Canada, and Australia. Collectivist cultures stress on mainly loyalty, harmony, and group consensus. This happens in Latin America, Japan, and China. Leaders should encourage collective collaboration in collectivist contexts and personal initiation in individual ones. Masculinity against femininity. This indicates whether a cultural prioritizes competition and success over care and quality life. Masculine cultures talk about ambition, boldness, and performance. Empathy, cooperation, and work life balance are more valued in feminine cultures. Leaders must customize motivation, recognizing performance. Leaders could customize motivation, recognizing performance in male circumstances, while also encouraging teamwork in feminine ones. Uncertainty avoidance. This assess comfort with risk and ambiguity. Countries with a high level of uncertainty avoidance prefer rules, structure, and stability, whereas low uncertainty avoidance encourage flexibility, creativity, and even risk taking. This happens in Singapore, Jamaica, and even Denmark. Leaders must establish a clear structure in high avoidance cultures while encouraging adaptability in low avoidance ones. Long term versus short term orientation. This demonstrates a culture emphasis on future beliefs over immediate outcomes. Long term orientation considers strategic planning and perseverance. Short term orientation emphasizes tradition, social obligation, and immediate success. Leaders in long term cultures value sustainability and patience, whereas those in short term cultures prefer quicker results. For example, imagine a group of students wants to join your organization that they strongly believe in equality and all options should be given equal consideration. What do you think? Sorry. Which one of these cultural dimensions do you think this belongs to? It belongs to the power distance. Next slide, please. Organizational culture can negatively affect life. Organizational culture can occasionally have a negative effect. According to Stacey in 1992, when a culture is powerful and widely shared, it can limit new ideas and make people resistant to change. Even if an organization modifies its principles or mission, it will face issues if the culture remains unchanged. For example, in university, removing hazing from initiation rituals should be straightforward, but it is deeply rooted in many cultures. While it is simple to state that the organization values respect and safety, it is far more difficult to change members' behavior and views. Developing positive new rituals can help to change society towards a healthier path. Organizational culture and leadership. Leaders must be attentive to culture as they communicate values, make decisions, and recognize or reward behavior. Comovis et al. When an organization is founded, its CEO or leader shapes the culture by defining values, behaviors, and success. According to Kumavis, Lucas, and McMahon, leaders create culture by establishing fundamental values, transmitted through communication and daily activities, and enforce it by rewarding conduct that is consistent with shared values. Sorry. For example, a leader who values teamwork fosters a collaborative atmosphere, whereas one who simply recognizes individual accomplishment fosters a rivalry. Culture also influences how leaders behave, make decisions, and are viewed. According to Komovis, culture is the set of shared values, beliefs, conventions, and behavior that stay a group and shape how its members view leadership. For example, a directive leader may be appreciated in a hierarchical culture but regarded as harsh in a collaborative one. According to Shine, leaders generate and are influenced by culture, which becomes a powerful force that shapes everyone in the organization, especially the leader. Changing organizational culture is difficult because it is based on deeply held assumption that governs behavior. Shine underlines the meaningful transformation that are necessary for a shift in core attitudes, not simply revising regulations or slogans. Leaders must model and encourage new behavior over time so that this can be a norm. Therefore it will become a normal practice for those around them. For example, to transition from a competitive to a collaborative culture, leaders must demonstrate teamwork, modify rewards, and prioritize communal achievement over individual gain. The most important job a leader has is to manage the culture. Shine. Organizational networks. Kumovis et al. Define organizational networks as a web of links that connect individuals and groups within and outside of an organization. They enable members to share knowledge, resources, and support. Consider a network to be the organizational circulatory system, transporting ideas and energy whether they are needed. Network frequently occurs outside of official organizations. For example, informal communication channels, mentorship circles, and cross-departmental partnerships. Healthy networks promote learning, innovation, and cooperation, but weak or fragmented networks can result in isolation and misunderstanding. Leaders who recognize and strengthen these networks create a more resilient organization. Why organizational networks matter? Networks are important because they enable individuals to exchange information, resources, and energy. Networks assist firms in seeing problems from a new perspective and developing more innovative solutions by bringing together professionals from other fields. The network may target a single issue, such as bringing together a diverse group of students, faculty, and staff members to arrange an institution's 100th birthday celebration, or it may focus on ongoing challenges such as student retention. Student ethic or cultural groups may network to promote diversity initiatives on campus or take advocacy concerns. Key challenges in the establishment of a network include agreements on the network's purpose, developing as many links as possible among network members, and ensuring that several leaders exist inside the network. Lipneck and Stamps. Social capital. Purvis et al. Relates networks to the concept of social capital, which was also described by Robert Putnam in 1995. He stated social capital refers to features of social organizations such as networks, norms, and social trust that facilitates coordination and cooperation for mutual benefit. Social capital is what gives a network value. It is that trust and mutual respect that allow people to collaborate efficiently. The more trust there is within an organization, the easier it is to collaborate, share information, and help others. Next slide. Building effective networks. Networks connect people and groups for a common purpose. These networks might be official, like groups or project terms, or informal, like friendship and collaboration that arise. Networks, in whatever form they take, strengthen organization by improving communication, cooperation, and creativity. Some key elements of effective networks stated by Lipneck and Stamps in 1993 are: first and foremost, those involve sorry, even the most well-connected network might be confused or fragmented in the absence of shared purpose. A defined purpose guarantees that all activities and relationships work towards the same ultimate aim. Strong organizational networks are built on various links and shared leadership. When members are connected in multiple ways through projects, teams, or friendship, information spreads faster, trust grows, and networks remain robust even when certain ties break. Such overlapping ties reduce isolation and foster organization wide innovation. Leaders inside networks is also diffuse. Leadership changes depending on competence and environment rather than coming solely from the top. Lipnick and Stamps argue that shared leadership improves flexibility and reactivity, but Komovis characterize it as participative and collaborative, providing everyone the opportunity to lead. Finally, effective networks are built on trust, participation, and collaboration, which promotes open communication, inclusion, and joint success. The more connection, the stronger the network. Leadership in networks. Lipnick and Stam's 1993 argue that effective networks require numerous leaders who are scattered, adaptable, inclusive. Leadership in this approach is shared among members based on knowledge, circumstance, rather than being assigned to a single person. According to Kumavis, Lucas, and McMahon, network leadership is collaborative, interactive, and shared, with development based on relationships and active participation. Leadership changes depending on who has the appropriate talents for the scenario, making network more adaptable and active. Leaders do not command, they connect, coordinate, and communicate. Shared leadership also improves resilience. Others can take over if one person leaves, and inclusivity by valuing multiple views and shared accountability. Instead of issuing commands, network leaders connect, coordinate, and communicate. They serve as a bridge connecting people and teams to keep information flowing and goals aligned. This technique is based on emotional intelligence, relationship development, and agreement. A strong network is built on trust, mutual goals, and collaboration. Trust promotes openness, a shared purpose provides direction, and cooperation turns individuals' efforts into group success. Leaders improve these qualities by encouraging dialogue, honoring promises, and maintaining common ideals. Effective leaders cultivate both internal and external relationships, broadening the organization's reach and adaptability. They promote cooperation, creativity, and long term growth by connecting people, ideas, and resources both within and outside the organization. Make sure that multiple leaders exist within the network. Lipnick and Stamps. Example of an organizational network. Promovis et al. Focus on communities of practice, which are small groups of people that who share a passion or problem and learn from one another via regular interaction. These communities are essential kind of networking that encourages information sharing and collaboration. For example, teachers share classroom strategies, health workers collaborate to provide patient care, student leaders share event planning. In these community, learning is social. Members develop by exchanging experiences, solving difficulties together, and establishing professional relationship. Organizational network is not about control, but about connection. I will now pass you over to Celine.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to explore how organizations grow, adapt, and sometimes struggle in our fast changing world, and what kind of leaderships help them thrive. Organizations have life cycles. They start small, full of energy, and they grow into maturity and could either evolve or decline. What do you guys think determine the survival of an organization? Anyone want to share? Okay, so I'll answer. I would say adaptability, the ability to renew leadership, welcome change, and stay connected to purpose. Let's look at Adi's organizational life stages. This is a model that shows how organization grows, matures, and sometimes decline. Organization, just like people, go through predictable life stages, and each stages bring its own strength and weaknesses. At each stage, something can be gained and something is lost. The first stage is courtship and infancy. This is the birth of an organization. There is energy, creativity, and passion, but also a fair amount of chaos. Think of a new student club. Everyone's excited, volunteering for everything, staying up late, brainstorming ideas. It is the same kind of energy the Peace Corps had when they first began. Enthusiasm everywhere, but little structure. What can be gained at this stage? Drive, innovation, flexibility. But what is lost? Stability, a clear organization. The next stage is go-go and adolescence. Now, this is where the organization wants to grow and prove itself. There is ambition, but there's also growing pains. Systems are forming, but leadership might clash. It's like a teenager testing independence. What is gained? Confidence, productivity, and direction. What's lost? The easy creativity and informality of youth. The next stages are prime and stability. This is the sweet spot. The organization has structure, balance, and a consistent success. It is effective, confident, and well organized. What's gained? Efficiency, steady progress, and strong system. What's lost? Some of the flexibility and willingness to take risks that defined the earlier years. The next stages are autocracy and bureaucracy. Things start to get a bit formal. Rules and procedures start to dominate. The organization becomes rigid and rule driven. The focus shifts from results to maintaining appearance. What's gained? Order and predictability. Innovation, spontaneity, and motivation is lost at this stage, or could be lost at this stage. The final stage is that the organization faces stagnation and loss of purpose. The systems may still exist, but the spark that gave it its life is gone. What's gained? At this point, very little, perhaps only the lessons learned. What's lost? Energy, creativity, and adaptability. So, where do you guys think that Custard is based on these life stages? Would you say it's in the energetic startup phase, the structured maturity phase, or maybe slip it into slow, bureaucratic slowdown? Okay, I would say it is a slow, bureaucratic slowdown. If you guys agree with me, you can send some thumbs up. The model of Aziz focuses on how an entire organization changes. So let's examine Custard again. How would a random sample of students on your campus describe student government? Would they be positive, negative, or indifferent? Could you identify any recent accomplishments of the group? An organization needs to ask itself two questions on a regular basis. What have we accomplished recently? And how does what we have accomplished reflect our organization mission? If you are having trouble formulating answers to either of these questions, you may need to re-examine what you are doing and how you are doing it. Remember, the purpose of meetings and standard operation procedures is to help an organization do things in the most appropriate manner. Sustaining organizational life. Generosity means thinking beyond yourself, ensuring that the organization's success continues after you. Strong leaders recruit and mentor new ones, keeping the mission alive through people and not just through policies. To remain vibrant and relevant, an organization must be willing to remake itself. One powerful approach to transformation is through multicultural organization development. This process emphasizes two key things. full participation from all cultural and social groups, and a commitment to end every form of social oppression that blocks inclusion. When an organization takes diversity and social justice seriously, they don't just add representation, they reshape how decisions are made and whose voices matter. This approach connects directly with the relational leadership model, which focuses on bringing inclusive and empowering. At first, organization may be monocultural and exclusionary. They may assume everyone fits in one mold and that existing systems are working fine. Over time, they become non-discriminatory. They comply with policies against bias, but they don't challenge deeper systematic barriers. Then comes a turning point, redefinition. Here, the organization begins to question its own culture, policies, and power dynamics. This stage is uncomfortable but necessary. It is where transformation begins. Finally, a multicultural organization emerges. Here, diversity is valued, inclusion is intentional, and social justice shapes decisions and leadership. Jack and Halveno points out that perspective matters. A monocultural lens sees society as peaceful and fine, whereas a multicultural lens sees inequalities and call for radical change. As leaders, one of our greatest challenges and opportunities is learning to work respectfully with people who see the world differently, while keeping inclusion at heart at everything that we do. Sinach outlined 5 core disciplines that builds learning and organization, and they're all interconnected. The first is personal mastery. This means constantly developing your own skills. So for a treasurer, it might be learning new budgeting tools. For a vice president, it may be learning how to coordinate committees effectively. When individual grows, the whole organization benefits. The next is mental models. These are the assumptions and beliefs we carry, often unconsciously, about leadership, teamwork, or even success. Sometimes conflicts happen because our mental models differ. By making these assumptions visible and challenging them, we create a space for growth and understanding. The next is shared vision. Empowerment means little without a common purpose. Everyone can work hard, but if they're heading in different directions, the organization drifts. Shared visions aligns energy, passion, and purpose. Learning. True team learning happens together. Teams must learn how to communicate, how to decide, and even how to disagree productivity. Leadership, in this view, is a process and not a position. It grows as people learn together. Finally, system thinking. This ties it all together. It reminds us that organizations are living systems. Every part affects every other part. When something goes wrong, we look inward and ask, what can we learn from this? Rather than who's at fault. A learning organization doesn't just survive, it constantly renews itself. As Sinez puts it, ability to constantly learn allows an organization to constantly recreate itself in a response to new challenges. For example, imagine a student government that suddenly gains a seat on its board of college trustees. This is a huge opportunity, but also a major shift in purpose. The organization must learn how the board operates and what issues matter most, and how to communicate effectively at that level. This kind of adaptation doesn't come from a manual, it comes from being open to learn as you go. Or, as Stacy calls it, learning on the hoof. Ultimately, the message is this: when an organization embraces learning individually, collectively, and systematically, they don't just react to change, they create change. Virtual organizations are networks, not offices. Handy describes them as groups as where you may never see all the members in a person, all the members in person, yet the organization functions effectively. Zingama emphasizes a continuum of virtuality. The more people are separated by location, time, culture, or organization layers, the more virtual the organization. Key features include flatter structured, increased decision making at all levels, and a heavy reliance on trust and shared purpose. So, Think about your own organization, maybe Custard, maybe your place of work, maybe your own business. How often do members interact face to face versus virtually? In this class setting, we may never get to meet face to face. Leadership in virtual organization is relationship driven. Avialo and Kai emphasizes that leaders must actively build trust, cohesion, even without frequent face-to-face interaction. Zakaran Bada highlights that effective e-team leaders facilitate coordination, moderate conflict, and share information and ideas, develop team members' skill. Keza adds that successful e-leaders embrace ambiguity, curious learners, and courageous in upholding values. Virtual teams need not individual skill, but team learning and adaptability to succeed in a new environment. So this is activity. Please, guys, participate. Let's take a moment to be a bit more interactive. How much of, oh, sorry, I forgot to change slide. How much of your organization, whether it be your place of work, school, your own business, how much of that is virtual? How do you use technology to interact? What are the benefits and challenges of using technology? How has technology impacted decision making and communication? Anybody willing to share?
Hello?
Hi.
Okay. Hi, yes. Okay, so I used to work with this organization where it was fully virtual. We we even had training sessions online. Um, how we communicated there was we were using um what we on now. We were using Teams as our communication platform. Now, in terms of decision making, sometimes there were a lot of information that was misinterpreted through messages and whatnot. So it stemmed some sort of difficulties, but it's allowed people to be able to grow on their own and work at their own pace and their own time. So it allowed you to be flexible, so virtually gives you that level of flexibility, but sometimes it can be challenging as it relates to communication.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. Anybody else want to share before I move on? Okay. One of the hardest realization when learning new paradigm leadership is that your organization may still operate with conventional practices. You may feel frustrated because the culture doesn't fully support innovation, empowerment, or systematic thinking. The key is not to focus on what you cannot do, but to seek opportunities to apply these principles, even in the smallest ways. Think of it like planting a seed. Small actions can grow over time, even in rigid environments. There are practical ways to navigate conventional cultures while practicing new paradigm leadership. So, some of the things that you can do is share your knowledge. Teaching others reinforces your own learning and may connect you with allies. Taking responsibility. Don't blame others for limitation. Seek what you can influence. Stay positive. Look out for opportunities, not obstacles. Experiment in small ways, whether that be doing courses, studying, trying out a different role. Engage externally. Volunteer for programs, guest speaks, collaborate with other organizations to expand your leadership practices. Even incremental actions can create ripple effects throughout your organization. Finally, leadership development is an ongoing process. Build your own personal leadership library by reading and exploring new resources. The more you learn, the more tools you have to apply new paradigm leadership in any setting, no matter how conventional it may seem. Allen 1990 emphasizes that developing your own leadership knowledge will serve you for your entire life, both personally and professionally. By combining practical with continuous learning, you can influence your organization positively, even in traditional cultures. So, just to conclude, in this chapter, we explored what truly makes organizations strive and not just survive. We begin by understanding that organization exists to bring people together around a shared purpose to accomplish what individuals cannot do alone. Their structure and design help people, resources, and processes towards that purpose. We also emphasize the importance of mission, vision, and core values. These aren't just statements on paper, they are the heartbeats of an organization. They shape and guide behavior and create a sense of unity and direction. Next, we looked at virtual organization of the future, where technology bridges distance and creates opportunity for flexibility, communication, and collaboration. But it also brings challenges like maintaining connection, trust, and a sense of community in digital spaces. A key, fo- a key focus was the relational leadership model, being inclusive, empowering, ethical, and process oriented, where leaders create an environment where everyone feels valued, trusted, and connected to the mission. People naturally bring their best selves to work. Ultimately, organizational life does not have to be a sense of boring meetings and rigid rules when purpose and passions come together. Work can be exciting, creative, and full of energy, a place where everyone can contribute meaningfully to a shared vision. As I leave you all today, I challenge you to reflect. How can you apply what you have learned in your own organization? What small action can you take this week to lead with purpose, fostering learning, or building trust? What are the takeaways that you guys have from today's session? How can you apply these ideas? Do you guys have any questions for us? Thank you so much for listening. Anyone willing to share what they learned from today or any of these? Any questions for us?
And you would be appreciated.
Okay. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you,
This brings
everyone.
us to the end of our presentation. These are some of the references that we used.